It's our turn, episode number 51. Mandi and Suzanne visit. In this episode, I chat with Mandi Hutchinson and Suzanne Sheldon from the Dice Tower and Board Game Breakfast.
This is the Dice Tower Network, adding games to your wish list since 2005.
Hosting for this episode is generously provided by our fantastic supporters on Patreon.com. If you'd like to help us out by pledging $1 per month or more, please visit patreon.com/OurTurnPodcast. We'd like to send a shout out to our newest patrons, Diane and Tom. Every dollar helps to keep this show going strong. Thank you, Diane and Tom. Hi, and welcome back to Our Turn. I'm Cathy Ford.
And I'm Sarah Reed.
And we are here to talk about games of all sorts, mostly board games, but we get into other stuff too. How have you been, Sarah?
I've been okay. Weather's changing. Has not been so good for my back, but I'm dealing with it. I had to stay home a few days from work, but once I felt good enough, I got to play some games, which is always very exciting.
That's always fun.
Yep, being able to turn a bad day into a good day is always a good thing.
Yep. I got to watch my 2-year-old niece this last weekend, and that was a lot of fun, but she had a runny nose, which I kept having to wipe all weekend, and now I have her cold.
Aww.
So if I sound a little congested, that's why. But it's starting to clear up, so
That's
it hasn't been too bad.
That's good.
But colds are never any fun.
No, but kids love to share that kind of love around, don't they?
I was actually a preschool teacher for about 3 years, and it was the sickest 3 years of my life. I had so much fun with the kids, but I came down with childhood ailments I missed in childhood, and I always had a cold or bronchitis or an ear infection, and there was just no getting away from it. I finally had to say, you know what, I can't do this anymore.
Aww.
And I was very sad about that because I really had fun with that. So anyway, but we're here to talk about what we've been playing lately. So what have you been up to?
I got a chance to play La Granja No Siesta.
Oh, yeah?
So this is the dice version of La Granja. So I actually own La Granja, but have not yet gotten it to the table. But we recently got La Granja No Siesta in a trade, and Will was like, we can get this to the table, so we did. All right, so No Siesta is designed by Andreas Odendahl, published by Stronghold Games, plays 1 to 4 players in 30 to 45 minutes. So the goal is to collect resources, which you then cross off on your scoring sheet in order to fulfill certain requirements and get victory points. It's relatively straightforward in that aspect. Some resources can be marked off in any order. Some have very specific order, while other ones need like groups of the same kind of resource gained at one time. So it's gaining resources in certain ways. And then you can actually use some of the resources to hire helpers, and you get to have special effects. You build a roof on your barn, and each of the barn roof tiles gives you a special one-time effect. And then, of course, the subtitle of the whole game is No Siesta, but sometimes you do need some time off and have a siesta. So you have these hats that you can collect, and you're trying to go up the siesta track. I mean, they try to theme it when it's a roll and write game, which are mostly mechanical games, just a nice layer of prettiness on top of it.
Now, you haven't played La Granja.
No. So
and neither have I.
So all I know from what I've read is No Siesta is just the dice mechanism from the board game. So the board game has this kind of thing, but it has other things than in the full game. So it just took that little aspect of it. So how you play is every round, players roll the dice and you draft them. So I do like that mechanism. It's always nice that the different roll and writes have a different mechanism to use the dice. So you draft them until everybody has, well, it depends on the number of players, but in a 2-player game, you have 5 dice. Each player drafts until they have 2 dice, and then the final die both players gain that die result. And I think it works similarly in more players. There's a last die that then everybody gets that resource. And like I said, then you just assign them to your board and you can do different things. You can play simultaneously or not, depending on how much you trust the other players. Once a player completes the siesta track, the game comes to an end, and whoever gained the most victory points, the most effective way, wins the game. I do like that there's a lot of different ways to use the resources, and there's different paths that you can follow. The problem is the end game condition is reliant upon dice and the random chance of gaining hats for the siesta track. This means if the dice rolls poorly, the game goes on way too long, and everybody ends up in the same place. So the arc for the game is everyone starts off the same. Nobody has anything. Then you start making different choices, which starts differentiating the players. But if the game goes on long enough, everyone makes the same choices, eventually unlocks everything, and you're pretty much the same. So the game really needs to stop at a high point when everyone is different, but it doesn't do that. I literally won by 1 point because I did one thing different enough. So next time we play, we're going to try playing for 12 rounds and see how that feels. It really feels like this game needs a certain number of rounds to find where that arc, the middle of the arc is. Additionally, though, I've been told that there's the advanced helpers, which we didn't use, do help a lot in a 2-player game where, fewer dice are rolled in and more players. So as it stands right now, I can just give this a 3 because I have hope that it's going to get better. And if we can fix the game end trigger, I'm sure this will go up. Everything else was engaging and fun. It just went on way too long.
Okay. That's unusual for a roll and write, isn't it?
Yes. Every other one I mean, a lot of them have had variable endings. It's just, they're timed better. It's hard to explain. But, I mean, like in Quicks, you start going from left to right, and eventually if you can't mark anything more, you have to mark off the little penalty boxes. You get 4 boxes, the game's over.
Uh-huh.
So...
There's nothing like that in La Granja?
No. You have to roll hats. And the good news is there's only a couple other ways to use them. Otherwise, you pretty much are using them for the siesta track. So if you roll hats, you're going up the siesta track. But if you don't roll hats, nobody's going up the siesta track.
What else is on the dice besides hats?
Let's see. There were 3, harvest... Yeah, there were 3 harvest resources. Olives, grain, and grapes. And then there were donkeys, and I am blanking. It was another animal. I don't think it was a horse because it was a donkey. I really don't remember. But there was an animal.
Okay.
So 3 harvest, 2 animals, and the hat. And all the dice had the same sides.
Oh, okay.
So it was only 1 out of 6 chance, but it could still just not roll it. And I talked to Suzanne, who's the queen of roll and write games, and she says, yeah, she likes a lot of the other things about the game, but that just happens way too often, and that's why nobody really talks about it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And probably why you got it in a trade.
Probably. They'd only played 1 game, and evidently that was enough for them.
Ah, okay. So you give this one a 3.
I do give it a 3 because it does have other good choices. It just needs a different end game trigger when everyone is at a different point, so you can see if the different choices matter.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, my first game is one that I've heard a lot of good things about, and it's Innovation by Carl Chudyk and published in 2010 by Asmati Games. It's billed as a civilization building game that takes 30 to 60 minutes. So that kind of intrigued me because I really like civilization building games.
Right.
And it was good for 2 to 4 players. So 2 players is good in our household because it's me and Mark and the dogs don't play games.
Not yet, right?
I keep trying, but Sadie just wants to eat the components.
Oof.
And
yeah, not good.
Shasta's gotten to an age where she's like, yeah, whatever. So she just wants to snooze. Anyway, so I picked this up at a flea market. I think it was the flea market at Board Game Blitz.
Okay.
Con back last February. Yeah, in February. And we got it to the table finally the other day. And in this game, you're building a civilization by collecting advancements. And the way it's set up, it's a card game. So there are 10 decks of cards, and then you take 9 of the cards from one. All of the decks are numbered 1 through 10. And 1 is the Stone Age, and then 10 is the Information Age, and then there's everything in between.
Right.
Have you ever played Innovation?
No, but I think I've seen pictures of it, unless I'm thinking of something else.
Okay. Anyway, you set these up in a circle, these decks, and then in the middle of the circle, you select 9 cards, 1 from each deck, 1 of the first 9 decks, and you lay them in the middle. And those are the advancement cards that you're trying to collect in order to win the game. And the way it works is that the first person to get 6 advancements, whether they're special advancements or the ones in the middle of the circle, you just need 6 for a 2-player game. It varies based on player count. So then there are 4 actions you can take each turn. You can draw a card from the lowest age deck. You can meld a card from your hand into your tableau. You can claim an achievement from the center if you've scored enough cards, and I'll explain scoring in a minute. Or you can do what's called a dogma action, where on these cards there are actions that you can take based on the number of symbols that are in front of you and that are in front of your opponent. So, for example, if I have 3 castles in front of me, because all of the cards that you put in your tableau have these symbols on them. There's castles and crowns and factories and a clock and a light bulb and a catapult and a robot. Say like I've got 3 castles in front of me and Mark only has 1 castle in front of him. If one of my dogma actions is an I demand, then I can say, I demand you do this. And sometimes it's give me a card out of your scoring pile or give me a card from your hand or something like that, because I've got more castles and the castle is the active icon with that dogma action, then he has to do it. Now, if he has more castles than I do, he's safe.
Right.
Okay. And when you're playing with more people, you can say, I demand, and I believe everybody who can't defend themselves against you has to do what you're demanding.
Oh, interesting.
So I'm looking forward to playing this with more people.
Yeah.
So anyway, you can take 2 of these actions on every turn. You can repeat 1 action if you want to. So for example, I could draw 2 cards and that's the end of my turn. Or I can do 2 dogma actions and that's the end of my turn. The innovation cards come in 5 colors. And yes, they did account for color blindness. There's little symbols on the cards that are different for each color.
Yay.
And then they have, like I said, these symbols on them, the castle and the crown, etc. Some of them have 3, some of them have 4. And you're putting these in different stacks in front of you based on the color. So you have a red stack, a blue stack, a green stack, yellow stack, and there's a 5th one. Orange, maybe?
Okay.
Oh, purple. That's it, purple. And when you place a new card on a stack, it covers up the old one. You can no longer do that dogma action.
Ah.
Now, it also has a mechanic where you can splay your cards right or left or up. And that exposes more of the symbols, which protect you from other people's actions and allow you to do demand actions on other people. So that's kind of an interesting mechanic. So some of the actions, like I said, instruct you to either play a card from your hand, to meld a card. So if you're doing a dogma action, that dogma action may tell you to meld a card. That doesn't count as one of your actions, so that's kind of cool. They also sometimes tell you to score a card, and the score is whatever the age number is. So if you're playing a card from the Stone Age deck, it's worth 1. If you're playing a card from the Renaissance deck, it's worth 4. When you draw cards, you draw from the lowest age pile available. So if an action instructs you to draw a card from the 1 pile, but the 1 pile is empty and so is the 2 pile, then you're going to draw from the 3 pile. I still haven't quite got all of this down because it seems like there's a lot of rules for it being such a small game.
Yeah.
At 2 players, Mark and I weren't really impressed with it. There was too much randomness in getting scoring cards. I was getting them pretty consistently, and I was having a good time. because I was scoring a lot. And the scoring counts in being able to buy the achievements in the center of the table. You have to have 5 times the number that's on the achievement. So to buy a age 1 card, you have to have 5 points. To buy an age 2 card, you have to have 10 points. I was getting points right, left, and center, and I was buying those achievements up really quickly. Mark didn't get hardly any of them until later in the game, and then he wasn't able to catch up. So when we finished the game, because I got 6 achievements, I was like, yeah, this was kind of fun. And he goes, no, it's not as fun as you thought it was.
Not on the other side of the board.
And then he explained to me that, yeah, you were a runaway leader. I couldn't catch you.
Yeah.
And so when then I thought about, and when your partner's not having fun, it's not as much fun as it could be. So right now I'm going to rate this game a 3. I want to try it at 3 to 4 players to see if that improves the game. It seems like it'd be a little more cutthroat, and your demand actions and things like that are going to have more of an effect on a bigger number. The other problem I had with this is you don't want to play this with somebody who's susceptible to analysis paralysis.
No.
Because you have 5 stacks in front of you. When you're building your tableau, you're going to have 5 stacks in front of you. That's 5 potential dogma actions. And someone who's got AP is going to be reading all 5 cards because they change. And you're going to be reading them, and it's too many decisions for someone who's AP prone. I don't tend to be AP prone, and I was suffering from a little bit of analysis paralysis, trying to figure out, okay, which of these do I want to go? Because these dogma actions are not simple. No. It's not, I demand you give me this. It's, I demand you give me this, and if it happens, then these things happen.
Yeah. I really want to say that this was on Kickstarter recently, like maybe a new version or a deluxe version. But
there are several versions out there.
Okay. Well, then, because it sounds familiar, and I remember looking at it, because like I said, Innovation just sounds familiar. And I also want to say I've played another game of his, but for life of me, I cannot think what. And his game design style is, to me, and I know there's lots of people who absolutely love his games, to me they are overly complex. Like, for the sake of being complex or complicated. I mean, because complexity is good, but it just seems really complicated when it doesn't necessarily need to be so difficult to figure out. So I remember looking at it, and I talked to Will about it, and yeah, it doesn't sound like it'd be good 2-player like you experience, because it's reliant upon more interaction between players.
Yeah.
And I want to say, okay, I'm going to try to remember to look it up later. The other game we played of his, it also did not feel good it does not play well 2 players. Okay. It was lacking some kind of tension or something.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, at one point, there were actually a couple points, there were cards that I wanted to do the dogma actions on, but when I looked over at Mark's scoring pile, he had like a 1 in there.
Yeah.
And, and I've got like 15. Mm-hmm. And so just being a good sport, I wasn't going to play those actions on him because that would decimate his ability to play. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I'm going to give this a 3 right now. That could change at a higher player count, but for 2-player, it's definitely not great.
Yeah.
I think Mark actually tried to convince me to give it a 2.5. Yeah. Like, well, I don't know. We'll see. So I will definitely be playing this. I want to take this either to a library game day or to, have friends come over and try it and see how it goes. But yeah, Innovation is not a good game at 2-player, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, on to something good. We played Near and Far.
Yeah?
So excited about this game.
Now, you liked Above and Below, right?
Yes. Well, for the most part, we liked Above and Below. There's a couple aspects design-wise that I'm not too keen on, but it is solid for what it is. And he takes the story narrative aspects and just really runs with it and just improved 100% on it. So I told Will I wouldn't be amiss getting rid of Above and Below, but he liked Above and Below because it still does things very differently. And Above and Below is more about resource gathering. I mean, it's got this storytelling aspect, but you're trying to get these resources in a row on your board to score points, which that's how you score points. Where with Near and Far, you're actually, it's more based on the exploration. It's a narrative exploration game.
Okay.
So Near and Far is designed by Ryan Lockout, published by Red Raven Games. He also does the art. Plays 2 to 4 players in 60 to 120 minutes. Some of them can take a little longer. There's several different modes to play. So like I said, it's narrative exploration. There are maps to explore. It's actually a bound large book, and as you open the pages, the 2 open pages will then create a map. And there are quest locations on each of the maps that are tied to letters or number combinations, which you then read in the narrative storybook. And so they're tied directly. So, and then you make the choices like you would a choose your own adventure. You might have a skill option or a combat option or in the base game, or if you do like what we're doing, we're playing the character mode. You are actually developing a specific character and you read the specific character quests instead of the map quests. And you actually gain keywords and other things as you go through the character mode. And those keywords will tie in later on in a quest that might say, oh, if you got the keyword bells, you now have a new option that you wouldn't have if you didn't have that keyword in, because you're developing or going through that character's story. But how the base game plays, regardless of whether you're doing campaign, arcade, which is like a random map generation thing, is you are trying to overcome obstacles in these quests, come out with loot, and just make the most points by building camps. And there's just lots of different ways you can build artifacts. First, you have to go to town. You're going to recruit adventurers. You get pack animals. You can gain some treasure, which are items, little items you can use. You can even explore the mines. You can get coins and gems. The good news here, which is what I didn't like with Above and Below had way too many different resources, and the rarity balance was imbalanced. But here, you've got coins, gems, food, and that's pretty much it, other than icons that then appear on adventurers and treasure cards, like there's a skill icon, a sword icon for combat, and other things like that. And you use a lot of these different resources to build then powerful artifacts that further help you in your journey. And like I said, the main thing you're trying to do is you're placing out these camps. You have a limited number of 14 camps. You place them out on the board as you explore or on different threat cards. Whoever places all their camps first triggers the end of the game. You complete the round, and everyone counts up their journey points, and whoever has the most, wins the game. Like I said, this is very much, it's a sequel to Above and Below. He even says it is. So it has that book of encounters. It's much more balanced and streamlined, much more focus on the narrative and the story, which I feel was partially lacking in Above and Below. Because in Above and Below, you'd get the intro paragraph, but no concluding paragraph of the outcome, or very few of them. Very few of them have an outcome. Now, Will and I, when we play Above and Below, we tell our own story and outcome. So we actually name our characters. So we have these little adventures and we make up funny names, which then I have to try to remember the rest of the game to remember what I named them. But then you say, so once you get the result, then you're like, let's say maybe you got injured. It might tell you enough to say that you got injured. You say Mary fell down the side of the cliff, but Bob was able to grab her hand and pull her back up, and
yay!
So we would always add to it. But here in Near and Far, you don't have to do that, because they do give you this is what the intro narrative, your choice, and then, what happens. So, yeah, I really like that. So we started playing through story mode. It's so much fun just to focus on exploring our characters. We're kind of exploring their past and making choices on how to proceed. The only thing that's a little incongruous is the character story is independent from where you are on the map. So let's say you're actually on a mountaintop and that's where a quest point is. You get to go to your special character story, but it's about an evening at home. But you're on a mountaintop. But it's an evening at home.
Maybe you're reminiscing about an evening you had at home before you left to go travel onto the mountaintop.
That is exactly what Will said. He said, consider these flashbacks. You are resting for the evening on the mountaintop, and you are thinking back to this moment and reliving the choice that you made.
Okay.
Once he did that, I was like, okay, I can handle this. But the first couple of those, I was like, this is not working. It's not working. But it's so interesting. The characters, I'm just as interested in what my character is going to do as what Will's going to do with his character. So we're going through this. The character mode is the shorter version. It's more cohesive storyline. There's the campaign, which is much longer, and it doesn't get as much into the characters, but it's a campaign. You're still developing your character skills. Also, there's a Kickstarter going on right now for the expansion, and they've unlocked a cooperative mode, which I am really looking forward to. So the Kickstarter ends November 3rd, so you still have time to check it out. The expansion pretty much adds modules, so that adds variability to, you could change the mine in the town, or I know there was some other things. Anyways, these different modules you can add. Oh, but as it is in this base game, the board is double-sided. So you have a kind of like a simple side to the board, and then the other side is a little more complex. Oh, we switched over to the more complex side right away. It just had better options to play with. So if you haven't guessed already, I really love this game. So I give it a 5 out of 5.
Oh, good.
I will always want to play this game, and I'm really super excited. In the last week, we've played it 3 times.
Oh, wow.
That's a lot for us. And it looks like we need 2 more to finish our character stories. And then we'll probably take a break because we still need to get back to unplayed games. But if you're looking for a solid narrative exploration style game, this is definitely one to check out.
Excellent. Excellent. Yes, I've heard lots of good things about it, but I haven't had a chance to play it yet.
Another one to go on the list.
All right. Well, my next game was actually recommended to me by Stephanie Straw when I interviewed her on episode 50. Hi, Stephanie. And that is Werfel Bonanza.
Huh.
It was designed by Uwe Rosenberg in 2012, and it's the dice version of Bonanza. Have you ever played the bean farming game?
Have not had a chance. From what I've seen, the 2-person version just came out, but otherwise, isn't it 3+ players?
Yeah.
So yeah, I have
like
not
3 to 9, I think.
Yeah, I have not had a chance. Does the dice version play 2 players?
Yes.
Ooh, okay.
Yes,
Something
it
to check
plays
out.
2 to 5.
Okay.
Yeah. And so when Stephanie was so enthusiastic about this game and talked about how many copies she's bought for other people, I just, my curiosity was piqued because I enjoy playing Bonanza with my game group. My friend Dwayne, hi Dwayne, he has Bonanza and he's got several of the expansions for it. I don't know that we've played any of them though, now that I think about it. But Werfel Bonanza is not available here in the United States. It's only available in Germany.
That's why I was wondering what the German name. I hadn't heard of it.
So I ordered it through Amazon, and it took a little bit longer to get here, of course, because it's coming from Germany. And the instructions were all in German. Mm-hmm. It was like, oh, man. But thankfully, some kind soul on Board Game Geek posted the English version of the instructions, so we were able to do that.
Thank goodness.
So in Werfel Bonanza, there's a bean field that each player is going to place their dice into. And like I said, this is the dice version of Bonanza. And you have 7 6-sided dice. And each one has each side has a different color of bean on it. And there's one problem I had with this is that it was a colored dot, and then it had a really complex drawing.
Oh.
White line drawing on white dice.
Oh, that's not good.
Yeah, so anybody with vision issues or color blindness issues is going to have issues with these dice.
Man.
And the line drawings were so complex that it was hard to tell what what bean it was. So you just say, okay, I've got a red bean. I'm looking for a red bean. I've got a red bean. So you also have a deck of cards, and each of these cards they have two components to it. On one side is a coin, and you score with the coins. And on the other side is your order of beans that you need to fill these orders. And there are 6 or 7 orders on each card. And they vary. So they're different combinations. So you might need 3 green beans, or you might need, for the first row. And then for the second row, you're going to need either 3 brown beans or 3 blue beans. And it just goes like that. And you get dealt 2 cards. One you use face up, and that's your order that you're trying to fill. You don't get paid until you fill at least 3 orders on your card.
Oh, wow.
And then when you fill 4 orders, you get paid 2 coins. And when you fill 5 orders, you get 3 coins. And when you fill it must be 6 on there. When you fill all of them, you get 4 coins. And so then you take the card that you filled the orders on, you turn it over and put it in your pile, and you draw 3 more cards to, if you are scoring 4 coins, for example. And it's first player to 13 coins. So it's not a long game.
Right.
Anyway, we had a ton of fun with this.
Oh, that's good.
I highly recommend you have a dice tray or a dice tower for rolling these dice, because they are bouncy dice. But we played through 2 games of this in 30 to 40 minutes.
Oh, wow.
And we had a great time. Mark even said, I think this is my favorite game that starts with W.
Yeah. Considering there aren't that many.
Yeah. And I think I need to get a small little box rubber band to put around it. And I think it's just going to go in my purse and live in my purse.
Nice.
For when we're wanting to play a game, like when we go out to dinner, or, when we're waiting for something, we want to just sit down and play a game for a little bit.
You know what you need?
Huh?
You need that soft cloth dice tray.
I thought about that.
You can roll that up and just keep it right in there.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And it'll cushion the box, too, in my purse. Yeah, so this was a lot of fun. So I want to say thank you to Stephanie for recommending it. It is definitely a 5 for me. This is, anybody who likes Bonanza is going to enjoy this game, I think. And the only caveat I have is, that the stickers on the dice, thankfully you didn't have to place them yourself, but yeah, the line drawings are really hard to read, and so then the colors become very important. But if you have color vision issues, then that's going to be a problem. But otherwise, it's a fun game, and it's challenging. And even though it's a dice game, so you're dependent on the randomness of the dice, you roll 7 dice, and then you can take as many as you want and put the dice in the bean field, and that reserves them for trying to fill your orders. And then you can take the rest of the dice and roll them again. You can keep rolling until you run out of dice, but each time you roll, you have to take at least one die out and put it in the bean field. And that's how it limits how many times you roll. Also, too, it has another interesting mechanic in that if it's not your turn, you can still score orders. You can still fulfill orders based on your opponent's rolls.
Oh.
But you can't use any of the dice they put in the bean field. You have to be able to score them from the dice they're rolling at the time that they roll it.
Gotcha.
So that was kind of cool, because it keeps everybody involved in the game when it's not your turn. You're still having to pay attention to what's being rolled, because you might be able to fulfill some orders while you're waiting for your turn. And, the more orders you can fulfill on a card before you score it, the more money you're going to get, and the faster you'll get to 13.
Wow.
Now, unlike Innovation, this one didn't seem to have a runaway leader issue at all.
Nice.
Yeah, I won this one, both games. I got to 13 first, but Mark was at like 11 and 10. Ooh. So he was right behind me.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was a fun game. Yeah.
Cool.
Definitely should be a staple in everybody's collection.
Well, I just added it to my Amazon wish list for the holidays.
Oh, good. And it's not that expensive.
No, it's not. I just have to remind my family that they have to shop a little ahead of time. They're so used to waiting till the last minute with the Amazon Prime. So
Yeah. This took probably about a week to get to me.
okay, that's not terrible.
So that wasn't too bad. Yeah. Yeah. It was a lot of fun.
Awesome.
I'm looking forward to playing again. And introducing my friend Dwayne to it. He told me he's never even heard of it.
Yeah, I've heard of a lot of the different Bonanza stuff, but not that one.
Yeah, yeah. I think I even like this game more than Bonanza, and
Cool.
and I do enjoy Bonanza. So, all right, that's what we've been playing. You've heard us referring to and rating games by a rating scale. Here's how we're using this scale. 1. Give me back the time I spent playing it. 2. Has great potential as kindling. 3. Decent with some bugs. 4. A good solid game. And 5. Buy this now. Sarah, have you ever tried to play a game on a table that's too big or too small?
Yes, I have. It totally takes away from the fun of the gaming experience. Have you ever had anyone spill a drink on the game table and ruin the components?
Yes, it's a horrible experience watching water or worse yet, sugary drinks flow across your game table and game components. Have you ever been trying to learn a game and wanted to leave it set up but couldn't because the table was needed for something else like, dinner?
Oh, yeah, it stinks only having one table for everything, playing and eating.
Well, now there's another option. BoardGameTables.com makes tables that are great for playing on and using for family meals or just protecting your game from little hands or curious pets.
Yeah, I've heard they have lots of options for customizing, include, cup holders, drawers, card holder slots, plexiglass, wing shelves, and different kinds of table toppers.
Their tables are made out of high-quality oak, elder, cherry, or African mahogany and stained to beautifully match other furniture that you already have in your home with a variety of fabric colors to line the inset portion of the table. You can pick your favorite color or color that goes with the decor you already have in your home.
I definitely got a plan to save up for one of these beauties. Hey, where can I find out more information?
Check out BoardGameTables.com. You can see what they have to offer and place your order. Don't forget to let them know you heard about it on Our Turn Women on Gaming. All right, today for the interview, I am excited to welcome both Suzanne Sheldon and Mandi Hutchinson back to the show. They've both been guests separately in the past, but now they're here together to talk about their new joint endeavor, being hosts of the Dice Tower podcast. Welcome back, ladies.
Oh, thanks for having us.
Hello.
Oh, I'm so excited to have you both on, and I wish you could have seen me fangirl squeeing when Tom made the announcement that you two were going to take half of the Dice Tower podcast episodes. I was like,
That's really kind. Thank you.
I was very excited. So tell me, I'm sure you've been asked this a million times since Tom made the announcement. Was it at Gen Con that he made that announcement?
It was Gen Con, actually.
Or was it Origins?
Yeah, and Suzanne left me all by myself.
It was Gen Con.
I did. I abandoned you cruelly.
Well, I know that's right. Suzanne was busy with Gen Can't.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. So I know you've been asked this a million times, but how did that come about? Whose idea was it to add two new hosts to the show and that it is you two?
No, go ahead. You go ahead.
Well, we were like, yeah. Mandi and I we were all at Dice Tower, and Tom is like, Mandi, Suzanne, come have a meeting with Eric and me for lunch. And so we drove off site and had a lovely buffet lunch together. And of course, Mandi, we knew something was up. We didn't know what. And they hit us with the idea. And it was completely Tom and Eric's idea, and they'd clearly discussed it between the two of them beforehand and understood what they were hoping for and wanted out of it and their motivations, and presented it. And Mandi and I don't know how you felt, Mandi, but I was shocked.
I wasn't expecting it.
And excited and terrified.
Yeah, exactly that. I literally was like, I'm sorry, what now? I needed a minute to process it. And then I kind of said, okay, remember some comments online on BGG about Suzanne and I when we had done the guest appearances, and people really enjoyed it. So I have a feeling Tom kind of looked at that sort of thing and probably received some feedback and said, hey, these girls are going to be awesome. And we're happy to do it now. But yes, all of those feelings happened when I heard the news.
Yeah, that was exciting and totally unexpected. It's unusual for any host of a podcast to give up even some control to other people. Now I know Tom has had dozens, literally, of contributors on his show, and so he seems to let them have pretty free hand of creativity in putting their segments together. But to actually turn over the whole show, half the episodes to somebody else, that is a big step.
It really is. And it's an honor and a privilege and definitely a responsibility that we felt. And, that kind of trust is deeply appreciated. But, just to give Tom and Eric credit where credit is due, I do think Tom and Eric are conscious of their role and influence in the industry, in the hobby, amongst their expansive audience. And I think that they both care about being inclusive and care about improving gaming and expanding gaming for more people, make it more appealing to more people. And I think that handing over half of their episodes, the podcast, the audio podcast episodes to Mandi and I, it's one of the biggest commitments, shows of effort I've ever seen towards really putting your money where your mouth is when it comes to talking about being inclusive, talking about diversifying content, talking about diversifying board gaming and being more representative. And I'm honored that they included me. I'm pleased that they include Mandi, because Mandi and I have gotten to know each other over the past couple of years, and luckily we're friends in real life too. And I appreciate that, and I hope people appreciate and respect Tom and Eric for making this step too.
Absolutely. Now, you changed the format too of your segments or your episodes. No more top 10 lists or tales of amazement, horror, whatever, which I love, by the way. I'm not dissing those, but you guys don't do those.
So Tom basically said to us, your podcast on those weeks, you do what you want. Don't necessarily follow what we're doing. If you want, that's great, but do what you want. So Suzanne and I, we chatted about it. We said we want to do something a little bit different, something that maybe appeals to other types of people that maybe don't listen to the podcast and say, hey, I kind of like that. I want to listen to the podcast too. I get a little silly. I used to be a teacher, so I'm used to talking about things with children and making it fun and exciting. And so we're always trying to find new ideas to make gaming interesting. So Tom and Eric have their way, which is fantastic, and they have a great following. And then we wanted to have it kind of our way to say, hey, this is us. This is how we're going to do it. Come join us on the ride. Do you know what I mean? So we wanted to just put our personality into it, and we're still tweaking as we go. We're video people.
Sure.
So podcasts are a lot different. So we're trying to see what works, what doesn't, and constructive feedback is always welcome. Now, I emphasize the word constructive. So something that we can use.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, I view it as, it's interesting because some people have said, I wish we love, like, people have been very complimentary. We like Mandi and Suzanne, and we just wish that they would make it more Dice Towery. And it's interesting because I feel like we've expanded the format, not abandoned the format, because
right.
we really are on the highest level. We talk about games that we've recently played, and then we do a couple different segments. And, we have a segment on older games. We have a segment on app games. We do a Q&A segment, and we have a different segment called Victory Points, in which we actually put a poll in the BGG Guild and get listener input. And those are really just different content segments that we, put on the end after we talk about other games. And I just think that's an expansion, and maybe someday, Tom and Eric will do Victory Points, or they'll do, a shelf staple segment, and maybe we'll do, a top 10 or something like that. We can always mix it up in the future, but I think I personally, and I don't want to speak for you, Mandi, but I was conscious of the fact that I think if we just duplicated what Tom and Eric did, it would open us up to even more critical comparisons, because we can't be Tom and Eric. We don't want to be. We love Tom and Eric who they are. And I feared, and maybe it's not a correct fear, but I feared that the more we tried to mimic them, the less favorable the comparisons would be for us. So I'm glad we switched it up a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree 100% with what you said.
Oh, yeah. I'm thoroughly enjoying your episodes. And of course, I still enjoy Tom and Eric's episodes. I get a kick out of all of them, and I love the variety. Now, Suzanne, I've seen it more, I think, from you, but I have seen some, I think, from Mandi. You've gotten some not so hot feedback via social media. What's that been like?
Oh boy, this is a constant discussion. I'm going to let Suzanne, because you were directing it at Suzanne, but yeah, this is something we talk about.
Yeah, it is nice. I mean, Mandi and I, we privately chat all the time about it, and we kind of share our woes and,
Sure.
giggle about it and the background and stuff like that. You have to have a sense of humor about it and have a safe place to kind of vent. But yeah, I mean, change is hard. And just a couple minutes ago, Mandi was like, constructive feedback is appreciated. But things like they're trying too hard. I mean, these just sound like they're trying too hard. It's actually not constructive. Like, what does that really mean? What are you saying? Are we too high, pitched? Or are we too scripted? Are we not scripted enough? Are our conversations not? I mean, it's not something that we can react to. Or, complaints about our voices. We've gotten complaints, and it's funny because I actually got somebody who works in professional radio sent me a link where it was this article, I think from NPR, where they had a response to that because they pointed out that their women broadcasters would get voice feedback that literally their men never got. It was only the women that ever got feedback on the tone or the tenor of their voice and things like that. And we've gotten some of that and stuff like that too. And it's a tough line to draw. There were some online discussions and things like that. And Mandi and I, we chose not to dive into those. Not because we weren't seeing them, but because for me, it's difficult, I think, for us to jump in and not sound defensive, because we do want to be open. We are open to feedback. And I think when you get into that mix, it personalizes it too much. And
Right.
there was really no win for us to enter that. So we try to take the good, learn from the critical, get over our feelings about the bad very quickly, and then joke about them. At least that's how I see it.
Yeah, I'm the same way. And it's funny, I spent some time with Tom in Halifax, and, we had a discussion about it. He actually didn't know there was a particular thread that was turning a bit negative. And Tom's like, oh my goodness. And he looked at it and he said, "Kay, that's not cool."
Yeah, I saw that.
And he shut it down. And then he opened a new thread. Yeah, and that had stemmed from us having a conversation. And he said, no, that's not acceptable. I mean, it's okay to have your opinions, but personal attacks, not allowed. And I have to tell you, it made me feel really good, because we know that Tom and Eric have our backs. At the same time, yes, they're trying to understand what people are coming from, but they're not going to let people attack us either. So I appreciate that, because then it shows that we are united.
Exactly.
We are the Dice Tower.
Exactly. Well, it's good. It's good that he's got your backs, and that he's endorsing everything you were both doing. And as a fan of the show, I got to say, you guys are doing a great job. I thoroughly enjoy every episode of the Dice Tower, regardless of who's a host. Now, are you going to mix it up at all?
Thank
you. Like Mandi and Tom do an episode, and Suzanne and Eric do an episode, or vice versa? Is that in the works at all?
So this is something we've talked about. We just wanted to find our footing, find our voice with ours before we started mixing it up, just so people got used to us a little bit, because we all know how people react to change. But it's been a topic that's come up. Soon we are going to be having a crossover, I guess, or I say double the fun episode, where all four of us are going to be on, and we're going to be talking about Essen.
I would be too if I were going to Essen.
Yeah.
So I know
really
a lot of people will probably look forward to that, because you've got all four of us on, and it's not to say down the road that we won't have the mix up of the hosts, but definitely could happen. Absolutely. I think right now we were just trying to find our footing, find our stride. We're getting there, and then now slowly introducing us as a group, and then potentially switching it up here and there.
Excellent.
Yep.
Going back to the comment where you said that you were told you were trying too hard. You're both new to podcasting, right? You've done video stuff, but you're new to podcasting. And one of the things, because I felt when I first started, and even still, as of this recording, we're 49 episodes are in the can. But even still, I'm like, sometimes when I sit down to the mic. And I think it's just a matter of finding your podcasting voice. And that's what you're going through now is finding your podcasting voice as opposed to your
look
video
at me now.
voices.
We're talking and my hands are everywhere and I'm doing stuff because I'm used to being on video. So I now have to figure out how to translate that into voice without it being too much because, we're at the stage where...
Just make sure not to hit your mic.
Yeah, exactly. That would not be good. Which I probably... Actually, you know what? I haven't done that yet, but it's probably coming.
I've done it a few times, and it really annoys my husband when he has to edit it out.
Nice. Oh, I was just going to say, I've guested on podcasts, but really never had to do it at this depth, and never had to build a relationship with listeners in this way. And I think that's a great way of putting it, Cathy, that podcasting voice. And certainly, while Mandi and I can talk in person really well together and just, chat, it is different when you're broadcasting that conversation and, can't cue off of visuals and things like that. And so we're getting there. And I mean, while I think we've already improved, I without denigrating ourselves, I know we have lots of improvement left to go,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think what some people don't realize when they are listening to a podcast is that it's a learning experience for the people who are recording it. Yeah, every single time, there's often new challenges, things that haven't crept up before, and that don't creep up in video.
Right. Absolutely.
Just totally different. So now you said you're not editing the podcast yourself. You're sending that off to Tom.
Yes. So it's hard because we edit our own videos, right? So you have control over that. So now we have to be very mindful when sending things because we're not trying to create more work for him. It's already more work him editing this. But it's hard because we really have to make sure everything's step by step. Our most recent podcast, I think that is like our best one to date because we didn't screw up like 5 million times. So it was just really straightforward. But yeah, Tom, he's doing it. And I think that's... and bless his soul. Thank you for that. And I'm sure Eric and Derek are helping him out. So thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, we take extensive notes. And like our first episode, it's like the show notes were, okay, at this minute mark to this minute mark, you got to cut that. And at this it was a hot mess. Let's just face it. It's a hot mess.
To be fair, it was like late and we were trying to do that and just a whole bunch of stuff before Gen Con. It was craziness.
Oh, yeah. To record our first, hour and 15-minute show, I think we were online together for like 6.5 hours.
It was long.
Oh, sure.
It was very long.
Easily.
Yeah. Oh, I know that when we're putting together a show, just me and Sarah recording the 3 segments of our show that are the two of us together, it takes at least 2 hours to get that done. And if we get really chatty in any particular episode, it's going to go a lot longer. And then I'm also recording interviews and we have contributors. So yeah, and I've had some comments from people going, your episodes are 2 hours long. And I'm like, yeah, and that comes out weekly.
Oh yeah, weekly. Oh my goodness.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So much work.
It is, but it is absolutely a labor of love, as I'm sure it is with the two of you
Absolutely.
as well.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
We wouldn't do this if we didn't love it, right?
Oh,
no,
that is for
no.
sure. The amount of time we put into it, absolutely. We literally... Anyway, when we write a script, trust me, it's something that we take a lot of time to do, and we really hope people are enjoying.
Yeah, I was talking with somebody on Twitter today. Her handle is at Peace, Love, and Games. Mm-hmm. And we were talking today. She reviews games on her blog, and we were talking about how doing the reviews and the blogging and for me the podcasting actually cuts into my time available to play games.
Yes.
Are you finding that too?
It's so true.
Hence our whole app discussion on our most recent podcast.
Absolutely. Now, do you two find it difficult to stay up to date with the new hotness, or have you just pretty much surrendered and said, "I'll play what I can play"?
I don't know. And Mandi, how do you feel about that?
I go to a lot of cons, so generally a lot of publishers will be like, oh, this is new, this is new, this is new. Like, I don't actively seek out new stuff, but being on Dice Tower has perks, and people search you out and want you to try their games. And I mean, I only take things that I'm relatively interested in. I don't want to waste someone's time. But yes, we do generally tend to get a lot of new ones. I'm not killing myself to do it. It'll get out there eventually. If people really like what we do, then they'll be happy to listen to it when we get it out. So I'm not chasing it.
Okay. I was really pleased that you both added the shelf staples. Because we tend to review older games on our show as well. And at first we were like, should we do older games? Should we do out of print games?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
And I'm like, yeah. I think we should, because our review, somebody may hear our review and then go to a flea market and go, oh, I heard about that game. I'm going to get that game.
Sometimes people get cranky, though, with the out of prints. If they can't get a game, sometimes they're like, well, why are you talking about a game that I can't get? And I'm like, well, but it was so good. And exactly your point. You may see it somewhere and go, oh, that's cool.
BGG has a marketplace, and people are constantly trying to downsize their collections or weed out their collections a little bit. I have a friend right now he is a board game collector. His name's Dave Mitchell.
Dave.
Hi, Dave. And
Hi, Dave.
and he has a garage full of games, and he's buying a house and moving into a much smaller space, and so he's downsizing his collection. And I'm looking through there going, oh, I wish I would love to purchase them, but I gotta think of my budget.
Exactly.
Yeah, I hear you. One of the things I'm trying to do is I love seeking out little treasures from markets that maybe a lot of Western listeners aren't used to. And so I debated about that as well, like highlighting games out of Korea or Taiwan or Japan that maybe aren't published or officially produced in the US, but I seek them out. And I decided it is worth talking about in the show, because I think that game design in many ways is cultural and reflective of the culture and the background of the game designer. And so when you see games out of different cultures, out of different areas, I feel like you do get a new expanse of game designs, little tweaks to mechanisms, little different approaches to the way the games play out or are designed. And I think that that's super duper fun. And I think you can even see it in the Western market that some publishers are definitely seeking out games from different markets as well to bring those to kind of our side of the house. And so I was kind of like, do I want to talk about games that are maybe hard to get? But I think because I'm willing and able to dedicate the time, energy, effort, and budget to that, why not? Why not try to share this passion? I mean, that's why we all either produce content or consume content around board games, is because we all love it. We all are passionate about it. So, if there's a little tiny niche of like either new hotness or some kind of, obscure little thing out of, 100 print copy out of, Taiwan or something like that, let's talk about it. And you never know. You never know what happens with it from there, and how that can inspire somebody to either seek it out or try it at a con or, have a publisher try it or whatever. So I'm glad that you're doing that, and I'm glad that we do that as well.
Absolutely. So I put a call out on Twitter before we got online here, asking if anybody had questions for the two of you. Do you mind taking some questions
of course,
from our
pleasure.
listeners?
Yeah.
All right. So Karen C says, my crew doesn't do 6-hour Euro games. So she's asking for some recommendations on a few different things. Number one, she wants to know games less than an hour. Can you each recommend one that takes less than an hour?
Wow, I do a whole
play?
lunchtime segment on this, so you'd think this would be an easy question for me. You go first, Suze, while I think of one.
Yeah, I mean, it's so dependent on what kinds of games people like to play, but I think I will go with Karuba. Good old Karuba. It plays a huge player count. I mean, depending on how many copies of the game you have, but simple, quick, fun, puzzly. Plays in under an hour.
Okay.
So I would have to say Avenue went really well when I played with a group, and you can play that with a huge group, and it's good times.
Very cool. My suggestion would have to be Age of War. Have either of you played
yep.
that one?
Yep.
I have not played
Yeah.
that.
It's a Reiner Knizia, right?
It is.
Yeah.
It's a dice game. You're capturing castles, and it has these custom dice that have swords and horses and a couple other things on them. They're 6-sided dice, and it has a really small footprint too. The first time we ever played that was over my husband's hospital bed. We were playing on he was in the hospital, and we were playing on the table over the bed. So some friends brought that in.
Oh my
Yeah, it's a good
I'll have to
one.
check that out.
It's a really good one.
Oh, okay. Is it? Okay, I'll have to check it out. I've never heard of it.
And her next one is games that cost less than $25.
Oh, I can come up with a few of those. But, Avenue is under that. Karuba, I don't think is it.
No,
I think it's more.
$30, yeah.
Lost Expedition.
Okay.
That's a good one. But
I think that's a good one, and I think that it's hovering.
But solo and 2-player, like it's tough because she hasn't provided a player count, like range or things like that, right? Because there's lots of inexpensive 2-player games. I would go with like any of the quote unquote classic card games to me, like Six Nimmt, Coloretto, No Thanks,
Right.
the game. Inexpensive.
Although, no, I think it's too expensive. Too bad. Custom Heroes.
Oh yeah.
Sorry. So fun.
Yeah, the card crafting one from AJ, that's super fun too. Watch your budget, Mandy.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I think it's in the 30+ range.
No, my recommendation would be either Flux or Lunacy from Looney Labs.
Oh sure. Yeah.
Those are both inexpensive games. How about games with short rule books?
Oh jeez.
And Indulgence. Ha! That's a
Is
short
it?
That
rule
game's
book.
mean. Yeah.
It is. Seikatsu.
Seikatsu's a good one. Yeah, I like that one.
It's another good one. It's not out yet. It's coming to Essen, but Azul has a relatively short rule book.
Oh, Cockroach Poker.
I've never played that.
It's a bluffing. It's a
But I've
silly
heard it's-
bluffing card game, and it's super fun. And like takes, I don't know, a minute and a half to teach, maybe 2.
Oh, cool.
How about you, Cathy?
Let's try it.
Just trying to think. Well, I know that Flux has a really short rule book. Draw one, play one.
There you go.
That's easy.
Oh well, if you want short, then Exit Series games, right? From Cosmos.
Oh, I haven't tried those
I
yet.
have them sitting on my floor.
Yeah, no.
They're sitting on my floor. Haven't
Like
played
the
them
rule
yet.
book is literally separate the deck, buy the backs of the cards, flip over this card, play. So there, short rule book.
All right. Then she asked about unique themes.
Like as in that we haven't seen before, or unique themes that are around that we like.
Themes that haven't been used a whole lot, not zombies or Cthulhu.
Ugh, yeah.
Right.
I have
Well-
one right off the bat.
Let's hear it.
And maybe it's a
Okay.
plug for my co-host, but her Project Dreamscape game. That has a really unique theme.
I liked that game. That was really cool.
Very uncommon. It was great. It's such
If
fun.
anybody wants to buy a copy, let me know. I have several.
a well-deserved plug for sure. I always like games like actually Renegade Games has one that's not out yet, but called Pie Town. Hello.
Yes.
We all need more baked goods based games, so that would be mine.
We're going to be doing an episode on food games with food. You want to join us for that one, Suzanne?
Oh heck yeah!
Seems to make it into every conversation. Oh my goodness. I'm weird, and I don't even know. There might even be something existing already, but something like, so I wear glasses, and like, it's pretty high prescription. I don't know, something to do with perspective and like the way things are viewed or something like that. So that way I'm on the same playing level as someone who doesn't wear glasses. It's a weird concept. Haven't thought it through.
That sounds cool.
It's an idea.
You're throwing it out there to the universe and hoping someone will do it.
I like it.
Exactly. I want half the proceeds though if it actually becomes something. I'm joking.
All right, and her last one is portable. I think just about any of the games that we've mentioned are easily portable.
So many, yeah.
Lots of the
Well, there
roller
you go.
rights. Quicks.
Quicks is
21.
Yeah,
great.
absolutely. 21.
Roll for it.
Roll for it. It's a good one.
It's a great little one. I like that one too.
Okay, and then she says, also, just because I'm curious about this in general, what's one theme you haven't seen in games that you think could, would, should be fun?
Oh, wow. I have not seen a game about producing YouTube or podcast content. There you go.
There you go. Absolutely.
How meta.
Probably the closest one that I can think of would be the networks.
Right.
Yeah, you're right.
Which is a super fun
I haven't
game.
played that yet, but Sarah has.
I like it.
And then Frank, our show's solo gamer, asks, what are your favorite solo games?
This is funny because I legitimately never play anything solo. However, I did play Lost Expedition solo and I really liked it. And I will play, not often, Caverna because it's one of my all-time favorite games. I'm terrible at it solo, but I do enjoy it.
Interesting. I didn't think about the fact that you don't play solo games a lot. I play solo games a lot, so... And I mean, beyond board game apps, I'm assuming, we want to talk about physical games. It's funny you say Caverna because Fields of Arla, I can solo. But I don't do it too often because it's such a setup and breakdown nightmare and I have little kids, so I can't leave it out.
Yeah.
I mean, this question's almost unfair because I have so many solo games. And I suppose it's cheating to say almost every roll and write that has a solo mode, right? That's cheating.
True.
Okay.
Yeah, but I do the same thing on app. So I'll play app solo, like a lot of the roll and write
I
games,
play the Potion Explosion app solo all the time, and I also play the Canasta app solo a lot.
Nice, I love it.
I haven't played Canasta since I was like 8.
I know,
maybe 12.
That's up there
Wow.
with me for me, like Mahjong. I used to play Mahjong a lot.
Yep.
Gosh, is there an app for that?
Oh
Check
yeah,
that out.
Mahjong, absolutely, absolutely.
Oh, I almost forgot. I did end up buying a game, and it was to support a local designer, Yves Tourigny, who does blueprints. So he's local to where I live. And he has 2 solo games. Well, it's one, but it's like 2 cases. The Arkham, what is it called? Arkham Knights or no, Arkham, I can't remember the exact name. Arkham Noir. And it's 2 cases that he's released, and they're both solo games. I don't play solo, but I bought them to support him. So I'm going to try them out. But so there's one if you're looking to try something new. That is releasing.
Cool.
Awesome. I'll check those out.
The only 2 solo games I have ever played, one is Onitama, but I've only played the app. And after playing it on the app, I don't know that I would ever buy the tabletop version. Yeah.
The physical version.
Because
yeah.
there's so much shuffling. And then the only other game I've played solo, and everybody's going to probably groan when I say this, is Firefly.
Oh my gosh.
I love
Do you
Firefly.
really?
I've never played it solo. The first time I was introduced to that game, let me tell you, they're like, oh, we're going to learn Firefly with all of the expansions.
Best way to play it.
I'm like, I'm sorry, what now? That thing took up like 3 tables. But it was fun. I loved it. Loved it.
Yeah. Yeah. My husband does a thing at the end of our podcast now where he goes, Cathy's Firefly mentions for this episode are... Yeah.
You're allowed. It's Firefly. You're allowed.
Anyway, all right. So, any other big projects coming down for you, ladies?
Friday. Can we talk about that? Yeah.
Well, when does this air?
In a couple of weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, never mind. It will have passed already.
That's okay.
But I guess Essen is the biggest
Okay.
one. Yeah, Essen would be the next big thing, and the cruise.
Oh, the Dice Tower Cruise.
Yeah, Dice Tower Cruise. Anything else you want to talk about, Suze?
No, I think we're really just focused on our existing content and trying to keep up with that. And then, working on the podcast together and trying to improve and grow and settle into that rhythm. I know that's where my energy is focused. I will say I still owe the beautiful Dice Tower followers top 50 board game apps list that I've literally started 3 times now. Like I've recorded half of the series, but the problem is that then I have to take I've had to take long breaks. And then the app world changes because apps change so fast. I'm like, oh, crud. And now I have to start over. So I feel like even though I've got half of this series done, I feel like I kind of need to start again because iOS 11 released and changed. So that is, believe it or not, that's very high on my priority list. So that's a big one on my list, personally.
Okay. And how can people get a hold of you if they want to connect with you online?
So we each have our individual accounts. So I'm on Twitter as the Board Gamer Pinup Girl. I'm on Instagram, Board Gaming Pinup Girl. We also have an email address that everyone can use, Suzanne and Mandi, that's Mandi with an I, @gmail.com. And then I'm also still part of To Die For Games. So I still have my own channel that I run, and we're on YouTube and Facebook and all that fun stuff. I'm probably missing something in there, but I think that should be good.
Okay.
And I'm on Twitter as @425Suzanne and on Instagram with the same 425 Suzanne handle. BGG Mandi. So on BGG, my username is Gibbous, which is a lunar reference for anybody who's curious about that. It's an old username. I've been on BGG for a while. And so, yeah, those are probably, and then, the email address. And of course, we have the Dice Tower podcast that comes out every Tuesday. Mandi and I are on every other episode. And then both of us, you can just find us on Board Game Breakfast on Mondays on the Dice Tower's YouTube channel.
Fantastic.
Yes, and I'm Lana Kane on BGG. So if you watch Archer, you will legitimately get the reference there. I did 2 cosplays in my time. Well, actually 3. Lana Kane from Archer and Zoe from Firefly.
Oh, awesome. I bet you'd make a great Zoe.
It was fun. That costume was... that was hard work. I literally was wearing couch material for the day, but that's
Oh my goodness. Oh, now I need to see a picture of you in your Zoe cosplay.
I'll post one.
Okay.
I'll post one.
That's great. All right. Well, thank you for coming on to Our Turn. It's been a pleasure chatting with you.
Thank you for having me on.
Thank you for having us. So much fun.
Hi, this is Cathy, and I need to ask your help, please. Our team is constantly looking at our show and trying to figure out what is working and what is not. We need your help in doing that now, and I would appreciate it if you would go to ourturnpodcast.com/survey2 and take a quick survey about our show. Again, that URL is ourturnpodcast.com/survey2, and that's the number 2. We'll also have a link to it in the show notes. Anyone who fills out the survey and gives us their email address will be entered to win a drawing for a copy of Mary Flanagan's Monarch. You can hear my review of this incredible game in episode number 27. We will do the drawing on November 15th and announce the winner in episode number 55. Your feedback will help us to improve this show going forward. Thank you for your support. All right, so now we're getting to the point in the podcast where we're winding things down and looking ahead a little bit. So, Sarah, what's on your plate for the next week or two?
Thankfully, a quiet couple of weeks. This Friday, we're going to have some friends over to play games, which is always awesome. But we're taking Saturday off to do errands and a couple things around the house need fixing. So, homeowner stuff that's necessary, not so much fun. But it's also good to relax because I'm sure Will and I will get a game in, or we'll continue on the Lego UCS Millennium Falcon. We are on phase 13 out of 17, so it is starting to look like a ship. It's really cool. And then
What does UCS mean?
Ultimate Collector Series.
Ah, okay.
So these are the really expensive sets. They're made for adults. They're, I think, age-rated 16 and up. Very complex.
It's a model ship.
It's basically. They've done this for a lot of Star Wars ships. They did it for, I think it was the Batman Tumbler, and I think they've done it for a couple of other things that are not Star Wars, but mostly it started with Star Wars.
Okay.
So yeah, pretty big and awesome. And then the following Saturday, I've got a bridal shower because wedding season starts for me. I've got 3 weddings in 4 weeks coming up.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, starting at the beginning of November, going through the beginning of December. I love my friends and family, but I hope this is it for a while, or they spread it out a little more. I understand it's expensive. I mean, gosh, 12 years ago, wedding was expensive. I can't imagine what it is now. So this is very much the off season. 2 of them are Friday. 1 of them are Sunday night. Very off times. So I am looking forward to being there with my friends and family. Not so much the time and the going to. I mean, a couple of them are out of town, and I don't like driving. But like I said, I love my friends and family otherwise.
Okay, great. I have a library game day coming up that I'm looking forward to. And Richard Bright, hi, Richard. He has offered to play Seasons with me and Santorini.
Cool.
And what I don't think I've heard of called Steampunk Rally.
Yeah, I've heard of that one.
Have you?
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that. Richard is always so much fun to play with.
Yeah.
He's such a good player that he's hard to beat.
Ooh.
So I am looking forward to the time when I actually get to beat him at something because he's also, just a great guy.
Yeah.
So
have you played Seasons before?
No, I haven't.
Okay. So
I've never even seen it on the table.
He needs to teach you using the pre-constructed decks. I don't know if how much he's played it. He might try to teach you with the drafting, but with Seasons, it is very confusing the first game you play. It's hard enough just trying to figure out how to sort the 9 cards you get into the 3 seasons. It's even worse if you have to draft cards because you don't know what they're all about. So in the rule book, there is if this is your first game, here are the pre-constructed sets of cards to play with.
Okay.
I highly recommend it. Seasons is my favorite game ever.
Oh, wow.
I am very excited to hear what you think of it. It reminds me a little of Magic the Gathering in terms of the card play, but the rest of it is all really original. And of course, I just love the art. I love the art.
Yeah, I've heard good things about the art in that.
It's the same designer who did Dice Forge.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, that's what I've got on my plate. And then I've got some projects I'm working on that are keeping me busy and doing lots of interviews lately. So those will be coming up in upcoming episodes. I'm having a lot of fun doing those interviews too. So getting to talk to some really interesting people. Mm-hmm. So anyway, well, you have a good couple of weeks and take care. How can people get a hold of you online?
Most often you can find me on Twitter at EurogamerGirl. Otherwise, I do run the Facebook page for Our Turn Podcast. So I post up the daily questions there. And so if you respond to any of our questions, I'm usually the one who responds back. And I also do the Kickstarter posts every day at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. I even do those on the weekend. So every day you can check out a new project. As you all know, I'm a Kickstarter nut, so love to spread more joy and more empty wallets, because if I'm going down, you're all coming with me.
I'm right there behind you. I backed 3 this week.
Yeah, it was an expensive week.
It was an expensive week, yeah. I backed STEM Heroes.
Yeah.
And House Rivalry.
Oh, yeah. Let's go ahead.
And Stellar Leap.
Good.
So I'm excited about those.
Yeah.
All right. And you can find me on Twitter as at Our Turn Podcast. I also have my personal account on there. I'm trying to get a little more active on my personal account. And that is at Cathy's Brain. And Cathy is spelled with a C. And then I also manage the guild on BoardGameGeek.com. That's guild number 2600. And we're having lots of great conversations in there, and lots of good feedback to the questions that we post daily in there. So we're having just a ton of fun in there. So please stop by and put in your 2 cents. We'd love to hear from you. And until next time, that was our turn.
Now it's yours.
Thank you for listening. This episode was recorded on October 19th, 2017, and is written and produced by Cathy Ford and Sarah Reed with assistance from Mandi Hutchinson, Suzanne Sheldon, and Mark Ford. Next time, I interview game designer Diane Sauer. We want and encourage your questions, comments, and feedback. Please call 916-426-2873 and leave us a short voicemail, or send an email to feedback@ourturnpodcast.com. Our theme music was composed by Adriana Crickle. Incidental music was provided by Ben Sound. Please check out our show notes to learn more about these talented artists. The material in this episode is copyrighted under Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives 4.0 International License. If you want to learn more about the games discussed in this episode, please visit our website at ourturnpodcast.com/episode 51. You can find a list of the games along with the links to their listing on BoardGameGeek.com. We are proud members of the Dice Tower Network. You can find out about other shows in the network like Boards and Swords, Push Your Luck Podcast, or The Game Pit by going to dicetowernetwork.com. Thank you for your support. If you like what you heard, please tell your friends about us.
This week's official Firefly count is 1. There was a second reference to Firefly, but since it was in reference to this count, it was given a penalty flag and declared invalid. I repeat, this week's official count is 1.